Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Southwestern newspaper. I'm your sports editor, Greydon Buhlig, and today I have a couple interviews, one with head coach of the SWOSU Volleyball team, Josh Collins, and the other with SWOSU's volleyball player, outside hitter Chezney Nielsen, a senior on the SWOSU Volleyball team. And today, really just an interview about her and what she brings to the table for this Bulldog volleyball team and how she's handled herself over the last several years playing the sport of volleyball all the way going back to high school. If you don't know much about her, her resume is very impressive. Started back, she talks about in her interview how she started playing volleyball back when she was 5 years old and has played it ever since. She was a 3A Utah State volleyball all-stater. She led her team to third place in the Utah Volleyball State Championship and ranked second in the state with 4.8 kills per set. After that, she went on to a junior college, Snow College in Utah, and led them to their first conference championship since 1980, a couple years ago. So that's really impressive. And then obviously in her first couple years, or in her last 2 years of her college career here at Southwestern, she's done more and more and continue to grow and grow and just be an impressive volleyball player. But there's more to Chezney Nielsen than that. And first, here's my interview with head coach Josh Collins talking about his player, Chezney Nielsen. Take a look. Coach, how are you doing?
Doing good, Greydon. Thanks for having me on. Always excited to talk to you on this podcast.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're going to talk a little bit about one of your players, senior outside hitter Chezney Nielsen. She's currently second on the team in kills right now. Always does a great job defensively with digs. Just kind of talk about how you think she's played this year and how her season's going.
Well, we got Chezney from Snow College, so she's a junior college transfer. Was with us last year and played some quality sets last year, and then has just worked into the rotation more and more this year. Obviously, she rarely comes off the floor now, and she just seems to be getting better and better. She keeps learning our system better, learning how we play defense better, and she's just a tenacious athlete. I mean, she works her tail off, and she always plays super hard. So it's been really fun to watch her grow within our program.
So your season right now, I know you've had a much shortened season. And this year in a shortened season, Chezney's actually had more kills than she had a year ago, percentage-wise. So just kind of talk about her development coming from a junior college. I know she was a part of a team that went to the conference tournament for the first time in like 50-something years or something crazy. A part of a team in high school that went to the state tournament. She's talked a little bit about her injury in her arm with the blood clot and how she's kind of battled through that. But really talk about how she's developed as a player since coming from Snow College a year ago.
Well, she's a long way from home. She's, from the upper part of Utah, and she comes from an outstanding family. I mean, they're just great people, very tough people, very motivated people. And so I know that it's rough. Last year was really rough for her, trying to make that transition and get used to being away from home, being away from her people. And I think this year she's really made, some people here in Weatherford her people. And I think that's helped quite a bit. And she also has that strong support coming from home. Her family is constantly watching her games, and it's not uncommon for her to walk into the gym almost every day on the phone with one member of her family from back home. So I just think that she's a whole lot more comfortable this semester, a whole lot more comfortable in Weatherford. She's really grown to like some of the aspects about SWOSU and Weatherford and, Western Oklahoma. And I think that that's helped her game just get better and better. But then, more technically, she's really got her timing down when she's going to attack the ball. And that she kind of struggled with that last year. At Snow, they ran a much faster offense than we run here. We like to slow it down just a little bit to give our hitters more options. And so it took her a while to adjust to our sets. But now she's clicking, and she and Allie are connected really, really well. So it's been a lot of fun just to watch her grow and get better and adapt. And like I said, she's a super tough kid, so she's always fighting for that next point.
Yeah, when I spoke with Chezney, we talked a little bit about her injury in her arm and how she didn't think she was going to be able to come back her senior year of high school, and how offers were there at the beginning, but once she got injured, they kind of fell away. But luckily, obviously, Snow College was able to catch her in her first game back, and she played well, and she got the opportunity. Now she's here, and she really talked about how, like you just mentioned, how tough she is, and how that really helped her to not take things for granted. And I know in a year of COVID, we call it COVID year now,
Yeah.
which is really crazy to me. But in a COVID year, in a year that it's nothing is the same. Like we talked about, you have a shortened schedule. Football, nothing was played in the fall, absolutely nothing. And so this semester has just been go, go, go the entire time. Kind of talk about how your team has handled that, and then just mention Chezney being a leader on this team. I know she brings the energy every single night. She talked about it. She brings the energy in practice, and you see it. The SWOSU Athletics page even used her clip of her getting a point in a game for the SWOSU basketball team, the women's basketball team this last weekend. So just kind of talk about how your team has really handled it and how Chezney's been able to step up and be a leader for your team.
Well, I think just like most athletes all over the country, our kids went home and were with mom and dad for probably a little bit too long, especially after being out of the house as college students. They soaked up that family time, but they were all really ready to get back to SWOSU and get back on the floor. And so that's made it easier for us to not take things for granted, and we talk about it all the time, and just enjoy every practice, enjoy, every single drill, enjoy every match, and be where your feet are. Don't be thinking about the mistake that you just made or looking forward to the next point. We're going to be right where our feet are, and, take care of the moment and enjoy the moment as well. And Chezney does that extremely well, and, I don't know if she talked about her brother's injury at all, but she witnessed him go through a really hard time and come out on top after having I think he was a bareback rider, having a bareback riding injury. And she's just surrounded by extremely tough people. And so her mindset when she walks into our gym is always, this is the greatest day. This is the greatest time, and I'm going to enjoy every moment. And that's contagious. And it just, it passes on to the next player and to the next player and to the next player. And so that fuels us through those practices. And, right now we're only playing one game a week. So you have several practices between games where in a normal season, we're playing 2 or 3 games a week. And so you don't have as many practices, and practices can wear on you, and it's important for us to have kids like Chezney in the gym who are excited to compete in every practice, who have that energy and are willing to play hard.
So we talked a little bit about how it is a COVID year. You just mentioned again a shortened season. How are you being able to manage all of that and keep your team engaged? I know Chezney mentioned several times how you guys never knew if it was going to be your last practice, your last game, because a year ago it was just over.
Yeah.
It was March 11th, and then March 12th, everything shut down, and we didn't come back till August. So
Yeah.
how have you been able to keep your team engaged, and how has I think you've probably mentioned it 3 or 4 times already, but just how Chezney has been able to keep your team in it all the time?
Well, and we talk a lot about that. We talk about, just like I said, we're not going to take anything for granted. So, each practice we're going to practice like it's our last practice, and each match we're going to play like it's our last match. And so I think that helps. And again, our kids just they know what it's like to not be able to do anything for almost a full year. So now it doesn't take a whole lot to keep them on track and keep them going. And, it's not only Chezney. Chezney is for sure a star factor in there, but, she's surrounded by other teammates who have that same mentality, and they just build off of each other. So I don't know how much I'm doing, but I think that they do a lot of that on their own, which is nice as a coach. I don't have to come in and, do a rah-rah, win one for the Gipper chant every single practice.
Yeah, those can get pretty monotonous.
Yeah.
So going into the rest of the season, I know you only have a few matches left. You're going to end the season at home against our rival Northwestern. I talked to Chezney about it. I told her, I said, I don't want to, bring it up too early because I know how it is as a senior athlete not being able to play or not being able to go on after your season finale. But what are you looking forward from your team the rest of the way? Obviously wins, of course, but more technical on the volleyball side, and then just kind of the atmosphere your team you want your team to have going into the postseason.
Well, we're in great shape. We kind of control our own destiny now. I don't think we'll be able to catch Oklahoma Baptist. They're still undefeated, and they just beat us 2 times in a row because of the weather. We had to play them back to back. They're a really talented team, but we're in second place in the Western Division, and we kind of control our own destiny. If we win out, then we'll be the second seed, and we'll get to host. We'll get a bye in the first round, so we'll miss the first round, and then we'll get to host quarterfinals, and then we'll just go from there. So, really, we just want to take it one match at a time and do exactly what I said, control our own destiny. We don't want to leave it up to somebody else. And so we're going to start with Southeastern. We go to Durant on Tuesday, and so we just need to go there and be a little bit more consistent. I feel like our consistency has lagged, here in the last couple of days. And some of that's because we played the number 6 team in the country, and they do things to make you look inconsistent. But, we hit a stretch there it seemed like for 4 matches where we just got better and better each match. And so now we took a little step back, and it's time for us to take a giant leap forward now. So that's what we're looking for going into this next week.
Well, Coach, good luck the rest of the season. Thank you for taking time out of your day to talk with me. I know we've got a busy weekend full of athletics going on here, and good luck the rest of the way. So in that video, you really got to hear Josh Collins, head coach, talk about how Chezney is more than just an athlete. She really is a leader on this team. The way she brings energy, the way she doesn't take things for granted and goes hard every single day, whether it's practice, in school, outside of athletics in general, and even on the court during the games. You really got to see a different side of her that you usually don't get to see of athletes, which in my opinion is really cool and a really awesome way to get to know the student athletes here at Southwestern better. And now here's the interview with Chezney Nielsen, just talking about her and her team and how she's handled everything over the last year. I know this year's been crazy for a lot of athletes, including the spring sports that are being able to play this year. They weren't able to play last year. SWOSU does have a small volleyball spring season. Really, it's more like off-season scrimmages and all that kind of stuff. But they weren't able to do that a year ago due to COVID. And here's her interview with me, talking about the last year and a half or so and the rest of her volleyball career over the years. Here's Chezney Nielsen. Hey everybody, this is Greydon Buhlig here with the Southwestern newspaper. Today I'm joined by Chezney Nielsen, a senior on the volleyball team here at Southwestern. Chezney, how you doing this morning?
Doing pretty great. How are you?
Doing good. Glad to be here. Glad I was finally able to find someone. I asked Coach Collins if he had anybody in mind, and you were the first person he mentioned.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, Chezney, just go ahead and talk about yourself a little bit. Let the listeners and viewers know kind of who you are, where you're from, and then how you came to Southwestern.
All right. So I'm Chezney Nielsen. I'm actually from Roseville, Utah, and I'm a transfer. I spent my first 2 years in college at Snow College in Utah, and then I was able to talk to Coach Collins and came on a visit down here, and I fell in love with the program. I fell in love with the girls. And the standards that Coach Collins really set out is something that I was really looking for in a college team. And so it made my decision to come here and finish out my 2 years playing. It made it super easy. So that's how I ended up here, and I've loved it ever since.
So you talk about where you're from a little bit, from Utah, and then your time at Snow College. I was reading up on your bio. You know what it takes to win. I mean, you've led teams to state championships, to conference championships, and then you all stated back in Utah, and then you led your Snow College to a conference championship for the first time since 1980. So just kind of talk about your resume since all the way back from high school till now.
Well, growing up, my dad always said that there's 2 things you can control. That's your attitude and your effort. And so taking that into the sports world, that's really what I focused on. And I set a lot of goals in high school of what I wanted to do and what I wanted to accomplish. And me, my high school coach, set those volleyball goals, and it was a huge goal to go and play on at college. And I actually ran into a little trouble. I had a blood clot that went into my chest to my left arm, and it kind of took away from my senior experience, and I wasn't actually able to play half of the season for volleyball. And so that goal kind of became smaller and smaller, and I didn't think it was possible. And fighting through it with my attitude and effort that my dad kind of said, we got through it, and the goal all of a sudden became more possible once we got the medical part figured out. And it was the game that I came back that my Snow College coach actually saw. And I take that as a huge blessing, and I don't think things happen for a coincidence. So it was a big humbling experience for me. But then committing onto Snow College, it's a little harder. You get a lot of girls that are really, really good and really talented, and it made for a fun season, that's for sure. And we also set standards and goals as a team at Snow College that led us towards getting those rings and the championship title. And then my sophomore year, we actually made it to the Sweet 16 tournament in Kansas, and it was amazing. It's everything that any athlete can dream of, is going to that next step with their team.
Oh, absolutely.
And then coming over here and getting to know even more athletes and playing alongside of some really talented girls, it's everything. It's huge. And knowing that other people also believe in attitude and effort, and knowing that there's a lot of talented girls that were raised similar and have the same drive.
And I think Coach Collins really embodies that. And then kind of Southwestern in general, you talk to any coach, you talk to any athlete here, they all have a pretty good attitude and give a whole lot of effort. And I think that's something Southwestern really embodies as a school and as an institution. And I think Coach Collins is almost the picture perfect for it. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%.
So in your first season here at Southwestern, you totaled 98 kills and had 31 digs in something about 20 matches in a full actual season. And then this season, in only 6 matches, so at least 3 games, each match, you have 79 kills and 34 digs, which 79 kills is second on the team behind a pretty impressive freshman in Lacey Mott. And like I said, which is super impressive considering the shortened season. What would you say you've improved upon since last year in your way? I mean, you're playing really efficient.
I would say, I think last year, a lot of us got into, well, me speaking personally, I can't speak for everyone. Me, I got into my head a little bit, and I was playing more tight, and you come into this big university and you play under those big lights here at the Pioneer Event Center. It can be a little intimidating. And so I think that playing more tight, where this year, it's a COVID year and it still counts, but at the same time, we're able to play loose and laid back. And that's what has stepped up my play, and just knowing that this is it. A girl on our team actually states out, like, we live on a rock. And taking that in and taking it into the volleyball, it's like, yeah, we live on a rock. Nothing is crazy. We shouldn't be so uptight, play loose. And that's all that we can get out of it.
You speak of COVID. I know a year ago last week was the day the sports world kind of collapsed, and then everything shortly after that shut down once Rudy Gobert tested positive, and which is even crazier in Oklahoma City, which was kind of ground zero here in the States. You talk about COVID and not being able to play this fall, but not even being able to play in the spring last year because we didn't have a spring break, much less finish the spring semester a year ago. What happened over the summer with you as an athlete? How has this affected you? And then talk a little bit about how you think this has affected your team.
Yeah, so you said a year ago we got hit with the news about COVID, and I was actually going back home to Utah just for spring break, booked a plane ticket, and I got into Utah, and then coach said, we're not going to be back this season, and we're not going to finish out. And so I canceled my plane flight. I stayed down there, and I didn't return until August this year. And so I had a lot of time to reflect back on that season and just kind of set some new goals of what's to happen, because who knows if we would be on the court, and we weren't. weren't looking ahead now and looking at fall. We weren't given a season, but I thought if we're given the chance to play, I wanna go out with a bang because it's my senior season. I wanted to go out on the right foot, so I set a lot of goals to get up early, to work out, and I have an amazing family that is so driven that way too. So we're up together as a family, working out at 5 a.m, and we're pushing each other, and so I think just focusing on that instead of all the negative things that was happening in the world, it gets a little frustrating, and there's nothing we can control that way, but just focusing on the stuff that we can control is what took me going into this season.
So you talk about getting up with your family, working out at 5 a.m. You talk about setting goals. Is that, I mean, you've said it 4 or 5 times in this interview. Is that something you focus on a lot, setting goals? I know as an athlete, when I was playing football, coaches would always be like, hey, here's a goal for this week, set a goal for the next week, set a goal for the season, set a goal for the school year, all that, setting goals. I know as an athlete, it's a big deal, but for you specifically, why is that such a big deal to you?
I've been told that if you don't write your goal down, you're not working towards it, then it's just a wish. And so really, I mean, growing up, we always had papers next to our doors of the goals that we wanted to hit that day, that week, and that year. So I think that if you're always working towards something, pushing towards something, you're not staying complacent. You can get better, and, you stay hungry and you want to go attack those goals.
So one of my mottos is stay humble, stay hungry.
I
And
have
you
that
guys
too, actually. So,
right.
Hey, there you go.
So your team right now, you're currently 4-3. Talking about staying humble and staying hungry, you're 4-2 in conference play with only 4 matches left. What do you believe that you and your team need to do to finish the season on a high note? You specifically, and then your team.
Me specifically, I would say we get to have those games, and that's a huge step. Is you want to win those games, but taking it practice and day by day at a time, and really focus. Like if we don't have a good practice, we're not going to have a good game. So for me, what I try to focus on is trying to bring the energy to every practice. Me and coach have talked about feeding other people. I feel like I have a lot of energy in this little body of mine, and I want to be able to feed it to other people and help them feel that energy. And so that is my focus. And then I feel like as a team, it's just trusting each other and trusting the process. It's taking care of our bodies and knowing that COVID is still a thing. And so being smart about what we're doing, because we only have 2 weeks left, and I mean, you want to go out on a bang and stay humble and hungry. So I think that's a big part of it.
And you talk about kind of feeding your team with a lot of energy. I know that practices aren't always fun, and they're definitely not always easy. The majority of the time, I know probably more than anybody, and the athletes that competed this year that didn't get to have a fall season, all you did was practice. All you did was scrimmage each other, and you knew every single day you woke up, every day you had practice, all right, I'm going against the same people I've gone against for the last 3 or 4 months, but, we just got to go do it. So what was that kind of process like, knowing you weren't going to be able to compete against other people? You had to keep playing yourself and your teammates. I mean, you obviously got to know each other pretty well.
Oh, yeah. It's like you said, it's kind of hard when you compete over and over. I mean, for the fall season, we played each other. We were practicing every day without a game for a couple months. And so I feel like it was hard to not be complacent in those situations. But then I had a mindset that I'm going to practice, and I don't know if this will be my last practice because of the pandemic or because of injuries. You're not promised another day. You're only promised today and what you get with it and what you do with it. And so that was a big motivation for me. And I think that we realized that as a team, and we've said it probably over and over, this could be our last practice, so let's play like it. And that's what kept all of us competitive and going, because who knows if that pandemic would have canceled everything, and that was our last practice without even realizing it. Because that's what happened in the spring. We had our last practice, and we didn't even realize it was our last practice.
So you talk about that, not knowing when it's going to be your last practice, not knowing when it's going to be your last game. I know from personal experience, I tore my ACL and I wasn't able to play football anymore. Did I know that at the time? No. Did I think I was going to come back? Absolutely. But life kind of hits you in funny ways, and, personally, I think God kind of speaks to you on some levels and lets you know, like, all right, man, it's time to let it go. You talk about your blood clot in your arm. When you were a senior, you didn't think you were going to be able to play volleyball again. So for you personally, talk about how you have that mentality. Because I know a lot of people say it. A lot of people talk about you never know when it's going to be your last time. So play like it's your last. I feel like a lot of people say that, but not a lot of people really understand truly what that means. So talk about how much that means to you being able to play this season and being able to compete knowing it could be your last time.
Yeah. I mean, going back to my blood clot, I kept saying to myself, oh, if I only had one more practice, if I only had one more game, because I wasn't granted one more. So I kept thinking, what would I do with it? Would I go harder? Would I fall back into being complacent? Or would I go out knowing that it is my last time and that's how I want to end? So I think for me, of just staying motivated and going throughout the season is knowing, yeah, we're not granted the last time. And if something happened injury wise or COVID, would I look back and say, I could have gone harder that practice. I could have hit more shots. I could have given more energy to my teammate that game, that practice. I could have said more words. I could have hit the floor a couple more times. And so I think like my biggest thing is knowing I don't want to have my last practice and regret it ever. And so just kind of looking forward with that and hitting it right on the head, knowing that it could be our last practice and I don't want to regret it.
The last question, Chezney, we're gonna talk about you. You know, this is gonna be a tough one. You're a senior. You know what that feels like being a senior in high school, but knowing you'll have the opportunity to play in college is a different thing. So your final regular season game as a Lady Dog will be March 31st. I know you do get a year back with the pandemic and everything, but knowing right now this is most likely going to be your last game as a Bulldog, and it's against Northwestern, our rival. Can't stand Northwestern. So what has volleyball taught you in your years of playing the sport? How many years have you played the sport?
Oh, it goes. My dad actually started us in 5th grade. He made our own little club team, and so it started clear back then.
So for a while.
Yeah.
What is something you would tell your younger self, and what is something volleyball has really taught you over, you know, the last 17, 18 years of playing?
If I could tell myself, give myself some advice, it would be to not take that play, that rep for granted, and to keep pushing and to give it your all. I mean, you talk about the big games and you go out, you want to beat the rival teams, and those are the games that you remember, of course, but looking back, I don't know how many games I won and lost. I mean, all I can remember is those hustle plays or those big celebrations after a win. So I think that taking in those moments of, you know, coach said this week is being where your feet are. And so if I could go back, I'd definitely say that is don't worry about that last point that you made a mistake on. It's look forward to what's to come and to be where you are right now. And so I guess I would stick with that, be where your feet are.
I think a lot of athletes have heard that. You know, we go through, and you're a senior now, so you get to tell the younger players on your team, your younger teammates, hey, don't take it for granted. And they look at you like, all right, you're just old, you don't know what you're talking about, you weren't here, like, and you think about it, and you go, wow, I really was only there 4 years ago. I remember going and playing my first game, and you hear the seniors that were there when you were a freshman saying, hey, don't take it for granted. And you're like, yeah, okay. So I think it's really funny how life kind of does that to you. You're like, yeah, I got it. Like, I'm not going to take it for – I got 4 years. That's a long time. You look back, you're like, oh, it was not 4 years. There's no way.
Snap of a fingers and it's gone.
So, Chezney, good luck the rest of the season. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to just sit down and talk with me a little bit about yourself. I know for a humble athlete, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but I really appreciate you doing this.
Thank you so much. It's been nice talking to you and talking about this university and all the great things that have come from it and all the great things that are to come. So
absolutely. Well, good luck the rest of the way. So hopefully in that you were able to see who she is as a person, which is really what all this is about, to highlight the great athletes, and she's just one of them. We have numbers of great athletes here on the SWOSU Athletic Campus. But for her, I think the most impressive thing about her is the way she doesn't take things for granted, the way she goes 100% all the time. And she said that really started back when she was little with her parents, really instilling a work ethic in her and being able to produce high amounts of energy all the time and just be a positive influence on any team or any classroom or anywhere she's at. I think that is something that for her is a big deal, and she does an amazing job at it. Again, their last game will be March 31st, which is today, Wednesday, at 7 p.m. in the Pioneer Cellular Event Center. If you're not able to attend the game, be sure to watch it on the live stream at swosuathletics.com. We'll have a write-up and maybe a couple interviews after the game, which will be posted most likely this evening or tomorrow. So be sure to look out for those. And thank you for listening and watching. We'll see you guys next time. Again, I'm Greydon Buhlig, sports editor for the Southwestern and host of the Greydon Buhlig Show. We'll see you guys next time. Go Dogs.